"Grandpa, they're taking your money tonight," my 8-year-old granddaughter whispered at her own party. Betrayed in a house full of balloons, I left looking powerless. I wasn't. I canceled their script, called 2 witnesses, and flipped the papers they brought. They thought they'd steal control. Instead, I revealed my secret and took everything back. Now they regret it. It's too late. I was supposed to feel family warmth. Instead, the room tilted. Balloons, frosting, polite laughter, noise that couldn't cover what Mia had just breathed into my jacket. My hands looked steady. Inside, I shook. "Grandpa, they're taking your money tonight." 8 words. A knife in a crowded room. I bent toward the cake as if admiring the frosting roses, the little candy 8 balanced on top. Camera shutters clicked. Someone cheered. Behind the noise, her whisper kept echoing. I smiled for the photos. I tasted metal. "Big wish, kiddo," I said, keeping my voice even. Mia's fingers squeezed mine once, brave and small. Then she let go and did what children are supposed to do. Tear ribbon, say thank you, pretend the world is simple. Her eyes didn't match her hands. Children shouldn't know words like take and tonight. I scanned the living room the way I once scanned a burning hallway, quick, quiet, noting exits and heat. Stephen stood by the fireplace, laughing too loud, checking his watch too often. Dana floated between guests with a perfect hostess smile, topping off wine before glasses were half empty. Every time a conversation drifted toward money or plans, she cut it gently. New topic, brighter tone. Practice, rehearsal, a script. Phyllis Grant, sharp as a pin in her cardigan, patted the couch. "She's thoughtful, that girl," she said. "Asked me if families ever disagree about big decisions." I nodded and pretended to study the gift pile. Big decisions. Like removing the old man from his own life. The latex smell of balloons mixed with buttercream and coffee. Paper plates bent in sticky hands. Ethan from Stephen's office tried to pull me into small talk about cars and interest rates. I let him talk. I listened past him, to the rhythm of the room, to the glances Stephen and Dana traded when they thought no one saw. The glances weren't warm. They were checkpoints. Are we on time? Is he comfortable? Is he here? Stephen's grin arrived before he did. "Dad, you good? You look a little out of it." He leaned in, cologne too bright. "Just need a breath," I said lightly. "Long day." Truth wrapped around a lie. Dana's hand brushed my sleeve, soft and measured. "Arthur, more Cabernet? You know we've got everything covered tonight." Covered. A careful word. Her tone was concern. Her eyes were calculating, scanning for compliance. I set my plate down, careful not to wobble. "I'm fine," I said. "Hate to miss anything." I let that hang there, as if I were afraid of missing cake, not signatures. I thought of Ruthie's rose journal, mud-smudged edges, neat script, waiting on my desk at home. I thought of the promise I made at her bedside. Protect Mia, watch Stephen's soft spots. Weakness makes dangerous choices when someone confident is whispering. I didn't want to believe it when she said it. I believed it now. Mia looked up from a gift bag, a NASA logo peeking through tissue, and found me. For a second, the noise fell away. It was just her and me and the quiet truth between us. I pressed 2 fingers to my temple, a tiny gesture we'd made up at the Riverwalk on spring evenings when the ducks were out, our pinky promise without pinkies. I hear you, I've got you. I clapped along when Tommy Alvarez popped a balloon and called it a dragon. Grandfatherly, slow, harmless. Inside, I counted to 60, then to 60 again. I measured the distance to the hallway. I timed the lull after the next birthday song. I thought about the keys in my pocket, the safe behind Ruthie's portrait, the weight of 4 decades I wouldn't surrender to paper and smiles. Bathroom, I said to no one in particular when the room swelled with laughter, and stepped into the hall where our family photos lined both walls, our best selves framed and dusted. Mia was there before I turned the corner, small sneakers planted, chin lifted. "You heard me?" she breathed. "I did," I said, "and I'm listening." I went back for the candles, for the song, for the camera. I played my part. I smiled in frame after frame, a tired grandfather with frosting on his knuckle and pride in his eyes. Let them record it. Let them feel sure. I left looking powerless. I wasn't. The phone rang at 7, cutting through the quiet like a saw through old wood. I was at the kitchen table with a chipped mug and Ruthie's rose journal lying open, yesterday's page still scented with dirt. Morning light made little squares on the notepad where I track bills, a retired habit I never unlearned. "Dad?" Stephen. Too early for small talk, too tight for good news. "I'm here," I said, steadying the mug so it didn't rattle against the saucer. He cleared his throat. "Listen, today's important. We'd love for you to come a little early to Mia's party, maybe 1:30. There's some family stuff we should go over." Family stuff? He said it like a salesman easing a contract across the desk. Behind him, a soft stage whisper. "Dana, too close to the phone to be an accident. Tell him it's standard, just signatures." "What kind of family stuff?" I asked, keeping my voice level. "Oh, just future planning, making sure everyone's taken care of." He rushed the last part, like a teenager admitting he'd dented my truck. "And what does taken care of mean to you, son?" A pause. Fabric rustled. He tried a smile I could hear. "Just keeping things easy for you. We'll explain later. Keep an open mind, okay?" The call ended before I could ask, easier for whom. I held the phone a moment longer than necessary. The house ticked. The refrigerator hummed. A bus sighed at the corner. Sunlight moved across crumbs I hadn't brushed from the table. I took a sip. The coffee went metallic the way it does when your stomach gets there first. Making sure everyone's taken care of. I'd heard that phrase in different uniforms. City officials used it when budgets cut crews. Insurance reps used it at fire scenes when they wanted signatures from shaking homeowners. It always sounded generous. It always served someone else. I pressed a thumb to Ruthie's neat handwriting, watched Stephen's soft spots, protect Mia, and let the words ground me. I could still hear the oxygen machine from that night, and the way she squeezed my hand harder than her small frame suggested. "Promise me you'll take care of Mia," she'd said. "And watch Stephen. He hates confrontation. He'll fold for the wrong person." I thought of numbers the way I'd think of hydrants and exits. 70,000 over 3 years, mortgage patches, a minivan transmission, temporary groceries that became a line item, 247 individual payments, each small enough to pass without a fight, together heavy enough to bend a life. I wasn't angry at the money. I was angry at the pattern. "Future planning," I said into the empty kitchen. The words tasted like paper. I looked at the magnet-clipped photo on the fridge. Mia in her softball jersey at the Riverwalk, cap crooked, front tooth missing, my arm around her shoulders. She'd been light as a bird that day, laughing when the ducks chased breadcrumbs. We had our pinky promise, without pinkies then too. "I hear you. I've got you." I wrote 3 items on the pad, the way I'd prep a call. Gifts, NASA set, real bike, helmet with lights. Arrive, early, watch, don't challenge. Listen, for scripts, for timing, for everyone's taken care of. My phone lit with a calendar reminder. Mia's birthday, 2 p.m. I changed it, 1:30. Then I pushed my chair back and stood slowly, the way I'd trained rookies to stand inside smoke, deliberate, aware. I hated that help could sound like a leash. I hated feeling small in my own kitchen. So I made the room mine again. Rinsed the mug, flipped it to dry, slid the journal under my arm. Riverside Plaza opened at 8:15. I wanted Mia's day to have joy in it, no matter what waited after cake. And I wanted records, receipts, times, the kind of details that build a real story when someone tries to sell you a fake one. I locked the door and listened to the bolt slide home. "I'll be early," I told the empty driveway, "and I'll be ready." I went shopping like any grandfather. I took notes like a captain on a call. Riverside Plaza had that early hum, security gates lifting, espresso machines hissing, a janitor steering a squeaky wheel past the toy store. The automatic doors sighed, and a wave of new plastic and cardboard ink hit me. A display of rockets and satellites filled the front table. Mia's eyes would go straight there. "Morning," a clerk said, tying on a name badge. She couldn't have been older than college. "Looking for anything special?" "STEM," I said, "something that makes a kid think and keeps her at the table longer than a cartoon does." She smiled and led me to a wall of building sets. The NASA section was a skyline of white boxes, lunar landers, the space station, and there, sleek and black against a star field, the shuttle. I picked it up. Weight matters. So does age range and piece count. "Challenging, but not punishing," I said. "She's 8, careful, likes to follow instructions, loved the museum field trip." "This one's perfect," the clerk said. "It has moving parts, a stand, and the manual reads like a story. Lots of build sessions." "Good," I said. "I want her to earn it." I flipped the box, checked the fine print. I used to scan incident reports for hidden liabilities. This wasn't so different. I pictured Mia on the dining table, hair falling forward, tongue caught between teeth the way Ruthie used to when she threaded a needle. "Focus runs in families if you let it." "Gift wrapping?" the clerk offered. "Yes, and a gift receipt, separate from the main receipt. Flat, please." I laid my notepad on the counter and wrote the time in the corner as she rang it up. Date stamps fade. Ink holds. "Do you want a bag with a firm bottom?" she asked. "Please," I said. A box that size tears through flimsy by the second turn out of the parking lot. She slid in tissue paper like it was a good suit. I liked her care. People who care about little things keep big things from catching fire. A father and son wandered past the aisle, the boy pointing at a tiny rover with wheels. "We can save for it," the father said, patient. I felt something tug in my chest. I had money. Money wasn't the point. Love is in the way you choose, not just what you can afford. "Anything else today?" the clerk asked. "A card," I said. Blank inside. No glitter. Glitter is forever in grout. She laughed and pulled a simple one. Stars over a dark blue sky. "Happy birthday," in silver. I signed slowly at the register, my handwriting smaller than it used to be, then pressed the receipts flat against the notepad and clipped them under the magnet of my shopping list. Portable record keeping, a firehouse trick. On the way out, I stopped by the window display and looked back at what I'd chosen, not as a purchase, but as a promise. Mia doesn't need noise. She needs the kind of silence that pieces demand when they start to fit. You can feel a life clicking back together if you listen closely enough. Outside, the air still held that damp spring chill the Riverwalk keeps. Sun cut bright across the concrete. A few early walkers pushed strollers past the bakery. I checked my watch, still early enough to be thorough. The bike shop sat 2 doors down. Lights flicked on. A triangle of sun already climbing the wall of helmets. I adjusted the shuttle box in the crook of my arm, slid the gift receipt into the pocket of my jacket, and felt the shape of the notepad against my ribs. Gifts, records, intent. The bell over the bike shop door was already ringing in my head when I reached for the handle. The bell over the door chimed, bright as a bell on a kid's handlebar. Rubber and chain oil. Rows of frames in kid sizes, colors loud enough to be seen from a block away. A man with forearms like old rope looked up from a truing stand and smiled. "Morning, I'm Gus. What are we building memories on today?" "A real bike for my granddaughter," I said. 8, cautious, wants to ride the Riverwalk and not feel like she's chasing anyone. He nodded like I'd given him a fire code. Height? 4'3" last month. Inseam around 22 if she hasn't grown while I slept. "Riprock 20, he said, already walking. "Light frame, wide tires, low standover. Teaches good habits without scaring them." We stopped in front of a matte teal specialized Riprock 20. It looked sturdy without looking heavy, the kind of bike you fall in love with before you know why. He rolled it down, flipped a quick lever, dropped the seat. 2 fingers of clearance when she stands over the top tube, he said, and brake levers you can bring closer for small hands. He adjusted a tiny hex screw until the lever came to meet an imaginary 8-year-old's reach. See that? No panic grab. I liked him. He spoke safety without selling fear. What about gearing? I asked. Single ring, wide range. Less to fiddle with. She can learn cadence before complexity. Tires are 2.3, cushy. Riverwalk's got that one board section near the bend. This'll stick. He put it on a scale. 24 pounds and change. Good weight, not a tank. He spun the wheels, listened, tapped a spoke. True. Then he squeezed the front brake and rocked the bike gently, checking headset play. Solid. Bell, lights, reflectors, I said.
Helmet with a rear LED. And a decent lock. I don't want to teach her cynicism, but I'd like to keep what we buy. Gus grinned. Practical. I like practical. He pulled a small brass bell from a peg. This tone cuts traffic noise but doesn't scare ducks. A front white light, a rear red with a steady mode and a pulse. A simple U-lock with a cable for the front wheel. Helmet next. He set 3 on the counter, small sizes, 1 with an integrated LED on the dial. We fit helmets to heads, not to colors, he said. Then looked at the teal bike, then at the purple helmet in his hand. But it doesn't hurt when both say joy. I checked the helmet's MIPS, slip plane, and buckles. Show me the 2-finger rule under the strap, and how to adjust the ratchet with gloves on. He demonstrated. I made him show me again with his eyes closed. He laughed. I didn't. Price on the Riprock? I asked. $389, he said. Helmet 45, light set 30, bell 10, lock 25. I'll throw in reflectors and install everything. No charge for a basic safety tune. Gift receipt, I said, and the regular one flat. Print your name at the bottom, please, and the time. I slid my notepad onto the counter and copied both totals and timestamps. Ink holds. Memory is a nice story until it isn't. He wheeled the bike to a stand and tightened bolts with a torque wrench, calling out the numbers softly like a ritual. Seat post 5 Newton meters. Stem 6. Pedals snug plus a hair. Tires at 22 psi front, 24 rear. She'll feel planted without slogging. He affixed the bell and lights, aligned the beam against the shop's back wall, then stepped back and looked at it like a finished building. You ride? He asked. I used to run fire calls, I said. Now I count ducks. He nodded. Then you already know. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. First rides are rules and joy. In that order. I paid. The register spat paper. He flattened the receipts with his palm and slid the gift one into a small envelope. From Grandpa, he said, writing it in neat block letters. I tucked both under my notepad clip. We boxed the bike, foam on the frame, wheel off to fit, and carried it to my SUV together. The box filled the cargo space like a good decision. Gus handed me the helmet and the lights in a separate bag. Bring her by after she rides a week, he said. I'll give it a quick once-over, free. That's kind, I said. Kind keeps things from catching fire. He squinted at me. You're sharp, Mr. Hale, Arthur. Good to meet you, Arthur. You picked well, and you asked the right questions. He hesitated. Some folks don't. They just wave a card and hope. You're present. Present. The word landed where a bruise was starting. I closed the hatch. The spring clicked home. Sun found the chrome on a row of kids' handlebars and set them shining. I felt the helmet bag in my hand, the comfort of weight and purpose. Arthur, a voice called, bright and familiar across the lot. I turned. Arthur! Gloria Kim waved from 2 rows over, a bookstore bag tucked under her arm, hair set like a plan that didn't move in the wind. We'd been neighbors more than 15 years. She crossed between cars with a light, careful step and that smile people reserve for small-town sidewalks. Morning, Gloria, I said. I shifted the helmet bag so it didn't swing. The boxed bike sat snug in my SUV. Good weight, good choice. Birthday prep? She tilted her head toward the toy store bag peeking from under my notepad clip. For Mia, I said, a shuttle and a real bike. She'll love it. She glanced at the sky, then back at me. I ran into Stephen and Dana downtown on Tuesday, outside Riverbank Community Credit Union. She chuckled in that neighborly way, like gossip had manners. Quite a stack of papers. They looked official. Serious faces, too. Tuesday. Papers. A pulse thudded once behind my ear. I nodded like she'd told me the weather. "Refinancing season," I said lightly. "Rates make people hopeful." Gloria's eyes were kinder than her curiosity. "Well, give Mia my love. That girl's a sunbeam." She squeezed my forearm and drifted toward the bakery, the bell over its door ringing a bright punctuation. I stood still long enough to let the information settle without showing it. Tuesday matched Mia's whisper like two halves of a snapped twig. Stack of papers. Serious faces. Credit union, not a random bank. A place where paperwork tries on trust. I needed one more stop. Something bright. Something that said I hadn't brought only suspicion to the party. The florist at the end of the plaza had buckets out front, color arranged like a flag for optimism. The air turned wet and green as soon as I stepped in. A woman with snug garden gloves clipped stems at a steel table. She looked up and smiled through the steam of a bucket warmer. "Good morning. Looking for anything particular?" "Sunflowers," I said. "A dozen. Tall faces. No filler, just green to cradle them." I pointed to a bucket where the heads were turned in the same direction, like a chorus. "Celebration?" she asked. 8 years old, I said, for her mother. She nodded, reached in, and chose stems like a person choosing words for a difficult truth, carefully, with space in between. "Sunflowers are honest," she said. "They point at what they want and don't apologize." I watched her spiral the bouquet. The shop smelled like water on dry earth. She trimmed the ends at a clean angle, slid them into a sleeve, tucked the stems against paper the color of late afternoon. "Ribbon?" "Something simple, no glitter." I almost smiled. Glitter gets into grout and never leaves. So do certain kinds of regret. She tied a narrow linen bow, then set the bouquet on the scale to weigh for the register. 28, she said. "Do you want a card?" Blank inside. Stars if you've got them. Silver constellations on midnight blue. I paid, asked for the receipt flat, and checked my watch out of habit. 9:34. I wrote the time next to the amount on my notepad. Ink holds. "Beautiful choice," she said, handing the flowers over the counter. "Sometimes bright is the bravest thing." "Sometimes it's cover," I said softly, and she didn't ask what I meant. Outside, the plaza had warmed by a degree. A stroller squeaked past. The shuttle box's sharp corners pressed against my ribs through the bag. I eased the sunflowers into the back seat, faces turned toward the light, and slid the card into the side pocket of the door so I wouldn't crush it. I closed the door and rested a hand on the roof, just long enough to feel the car's faint engine heat from earlier, the way you feel a building's retained warmth after the flames are gone. Tuesday. Papers. Serious faces. Mia's whisper. "Just signatures," Dana had breathed into a phone she thought hid her. I played the scene in my head as a checklist, not a wound. Credit union visit. Tuesday. Party. Today at 2. Ask me to come early. 1:30. Keep me comfortable. Flattered. Present. Then the stack of fix-it papers. Everyone taken care of. The sun hit the chrome of the bike rack across the lot and flashed. For a second, it looked like a signal. I slid behind the wheel and pulled the seatbelt across my chest. The bouquet bobbed once in the rear view like a gold coin daring to be spent. I backed out slow, checked both ways twice, then turned toward the street that would carry me to the house where balloons waited and kindness had a script. Tuesday, I said to the empty car. A plan with a date. The house wore celebration like a rented suit, bright, a little tight at the seams. Streamers looped from the ceiling fan to the curtain rod, balloons grazing the crown molding. A banner that got Mia's name right, but left me feeling like a prop. Paper plates nested on the buffet beside bowls of cut fruit and a cake that shone under a thin skin of plastic wrap. Dana met me at the door before my knuckles reached the second knock. "Arthur, you made it," she sang, all warmth and perfect teeth. Her hand found my sleeve and steered me inside with the same pressure you'd use on a grocery cart you didn't own. "You look wonderful. We're so glad you're here." I handed her the sunflowers. "For the hostess," I said. She lifted them like a prize on a game show, turned to the kitchen and called for a vase as if the timing were part of the choreography. It probably was.
Stephen appeared from the living room in a sweater that tried too hard to be casual. "Dad," he boomed, clapping my shoulder, "you're the best. Everyone, this is my old man." He grinned at a coworker I recognized from one awkward barbecue where legacy had been used like a seasoning. He taught me everything I know about loyalty. "Loyalty," I said, letting the word pass my lips like a coin across a counter. The coworker, Ethan, lifted his beer and smiled too wide. The room had its own pulse. Neighbors grouped in safe little circles, conversation bubbles rising and popping. Every now and then, a topic drifted toward money or plans, property taxes, college savings, someone's refinance. And Dana floated in with napkins and a laugh, redirecting the current with a bright remark about the weather or the frosting roses. She never interrupted. She bent the line before it reached the target. Mia's friends ringed a pile of gifts in the corner like campers around a fire. She moved between them, polite, making sure thank yous landed where they should. I noticed the way her fingers lingered on the tissue of one bag, then let go, as if she were waiting for a signal I hadn't sent yet. Not yet. "Red or white?" Dana asked, a bottle in each hand. I caught the faintest glance she shot Stephen over the glass rims, a checkmark of eyes. "Are we good? Is he settled?"
"Water's fine," I said. "Long drive." It wasn't that long. The truth sits down easier when it leans on something harmless. Phyllis Grant sat on the end of the sofa like a court stenographer, taking everything in. When I passed, she touched my wrist. "That child of yours is a thinker," she said, nodding toward Mia. "She asked me last week if families can love each other and still be wrong at the same time." "They can," I said, "and they are." Phyllis's eyes searched my face, then she patted my hand once and let me go. I let myself be toured. Mrs. Alvarez admired the banner, Mr. Alvarez asked after my knees, Ethan tried again with interest rates. I answered without answering, the way we train rookies to answer reporters on a curb while a house still smokes. Keep it calm. Keep it kind. Say nothing that adds oxygen. Stephen checked his watch, then checked me. Dana placed the sunflowers in a glass cylinder, just where I'd see them every time I looked toward the kitchen. Bright, framed, a message. We're thoughtful. We're generous. We're good people. Scripts work best when the set tells the story, too. Mia caught my eye from across the room. She had a birthday crown made of cardstock and a piece of blue ribbon slipping out of her hair. She smiled, the real kind, just for a second. The room's hum didn't reach that one smile. It never does, when the signal is meant for a single receiver. "Arthur, can I get you a plate?" Dana asked, already lifting one. "We have your favorite canapes." My favorites change weekly. She wouldn't know. She wasn't asking. She was placing. "Maybe in a minute," I said. "Let me wash my hands." I lifted them a little, palms up, as if a faint dust could be shaken without shaking the house. "Down the hall on the left," she said. "Towels are on the shelf." Then softer, to Stephen, thinking I'd already turned away, "Keep him close to the living room." I moved through the doorway anyway. The air cooled as the noise thinned, frames on the hallway wall reflecting party light in small, contained squares. Baby Stephen with cake on his face. Ruthie in a sun hat, hand on a peony the size of her heart. Mia at a park fountain, sleeves rolled, chin stubborn with joy. Our best selves, wood and glass keeping them the way we wished. I didn't head straight to the bathroom. I let myself stop in front of the photo of Ruthie holding late-season roses, petals shot with copper. The arrangement in the kitchen was sunflowers. The memory here was thorns and care. Love can be both. Behind me, the living room laughed at something Stephen said too loudly. The sound reached the hall like a front you could smell before you saw. I listened for other sounds, smaller feet, a breath taken in and held, the bright courage of an 8-year-old making a choice. I stepped farther down the hall and waited where the light fell soft, where a conversation could fit without being seen. The hallway was cooler, quieter. Party light fell in squares across the family photos. I had 1 second of stillness before small sneakers skidded to a stop. "Grandpa," Mia breathed, looking back toward the living room like the house itself could listen. Her crown was crooked. Her hands were not. "I'm here. What is it?"
She swallowed, chin set the way Ruthie's had been when she told a doctor no. Mom said you have too much money to live alone. She told Dad they're going to fix it tonight. There are papers from the bank. Papers, bank, Tuesday. The words lined up like dominoes I didn't push. I kept my face soft. You heard this last night. She nodded. They thought I was asleep. Her mouth trembled, then tightened. I don't want them to take your money. You always listened to me. You came to my game even when it rained. H shouldn't have to carry sentences like that. I dropped to one knee so our eyes were level. The carpet pressed patterns into my jeans. Behind her, a photo of baby Stephen smiled with frosting on his nose. Past and present argued quietly on the wall. Thank you for telling me, I said. That was brave. Will I get in trouble, she whispered, if they find out I told? Not from me, I said. Never from me. I held up my hand, little finger out. She hooked hers around it, relief loosening her shoulders. This is ours, I said. Our promise. I will handle it. You won't have to. Her eyes searched mine like she was checking a door latch. Are you scared? I'm disappointed, I said. That's heavier. Then I let a smile find the corner of my mouth. And I'm prepared. She breathed out, a small cloud I could almost see. What will you do? First, we go back in there and enjoy your party, I said. You open gifts, you eat cake, you let the people who love you sing off-key. I tapped her crown straight. Second, I'm going to make sure your future is safe. That's my job. Her lip wobbled. What if Mom and Dad get mad at you? They might, I said, but being mad and being right are not the same, and my love for you is not a switch they can flip. The living room swelled with a too loud laugh from Stephen. The sound thinned by the time it reached us, like rain losing force crossing a field. They said signatures, she added, voice barely there. Like it was already done. Mom said it would be legal. Lots of things are legal, I said. Not all of them are right. I thought of forms with tabs and pens with cheap caps, of Priya's stamp, of Jeffrey's questions. Sometimes the law is loudest when you bring the right witnesses. She didn't need the details. She needed a path. Here's what I need from you, I said. You go be 8. You let me be old and smart. If you feel worried again, you touch your temple like this. I pressed 2 fingers to my own. She mirrored me, the way she had at the Riverwalk when ducks chased crumbs. And you remember, I hear you, even if I'm across the room. Her shoulders settled. The worry didn't vanish. It took a step back. I love you, she said quickly, like the words might fall if she didn't catch them. I love you more, I said. It was a habit and a truth that never wore out. Now, one more thing. It's important that we don't show them we know. Can you do that? She looked at the party light on the carpet and then back at me. I can try. Trying is enough, I said. The rest is on me. I stood, slower than I felt, and smoothed the front of my shirt like a man who'd hung it in the bathroom to steam out the wrinkles. The hallway smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and birthday sugar. I glanced at Ruthie's picture, the one with the copper-shot roses, and let her steady me. If love makes you soft, let discipline make you steady. Ready? I asked. Mia nodded and slid her small hand into mine for 3 steps, then let go before we crossed the threshold. We stepped back into noise. Balloons bumped our shoulders. The banner caught a breath from the AC and fluttered Mia's name. "Grandpa, come see," a friend of hers called, holding a box with stars on it. Dana's smile appeared from the kitchen, with the vase of sunflowers bright as a spotlight. I counted beats. Laughter, pour, question, redirect. I could feel the script spine under the scene, the way you feel studs behind drywall. Timing matters. Fire teaches that. So does theater. I took a paper napkin, dabbed at a clean corner of my mouth, and found the soft weight in my eyebrows I use when a headache starts. After cake, I told myself, pick your moment, make it quiet. I lifted my glass. Water. It would look like wine from a distance. I let the room see what it wanted to see, and rehearsed one line in my head until it sounded tired enough to pass. I think I need to lie down. I waited for the lull that always follows sugar. The candles were smoke and memory, frosting smudged on paper plates, children spilling toward the backyard with balloons bumping like tame planets. The room softened. I put a hand to my temple. Not dramatic, just enough. "I think I need to lie down," I said to no one in particular. The way pain is spoken when you don't want to be a bother. Headache. Dana arrived fast, concern already lit. "Arthur, are you okay? We can set you up in the guest room, just for a bit." "Kind of you," I said. "I should go home. I'll rest better there." Stephen materialized at her shoulder. "Dad, stay, please, just an hour. We wanted to go over some family things," he swallowed. "It's important." "I'm sure it is," I said, keeping my tone warm as a blanket. "But not tonight." "Maybe after cake," he tried. Cake had happened. He knew that. He was stalling. Dana's smile thinned a millimeter. "We've been planning this for weeks," she said, then adjusted the sentence. "Mia's party, I mean, and we wanted to make sure that I'm taken care of," I finished for her. "I appreciate the love." I moved toward the doorway. Stephen stepped in, just enough to be a question. I put a hand on his arm like a father at a Little League fence. "Tomorrow," I said. "You have my word." His eyes searched my face for permission he didn't deserve, and found a closed door instead. "Okay," he said, and tried a smile that didn't find his cheeks. "Tomorrow." I made the rounds like any old man leaving early. Thank yous, a comment about the frosting roses holding their shape, a laugh at a joke I barely heard. Phyllis tapped my wrist. "You do what's right," she said, and didn't ask for details. Mia stood by the sliding door, a crown askew and ribbons slipping from her hair. I bent, wiped a dot of blue frosting from her knuckle, and whispered, "Save me a piece for later." She tipped her chin the smallest degree and touched 2 fingers to her temple. Received. Understood. At the threshold, I glanced back. The sunflowers I'd brought stood on the kitchen island like a spotlight that had lost its actor. Dana fussed with the vase as if brightness could hold a script together. Stephen checked his watch and then his phone. Neighbors began to gather coats. The set was built for a scene that would not play. Outside, the late light had turned the driveway into 2 strips of gold. I let myself breathe in the open air. Rubber squeaked as a balloon escaped through the cracked back door and bumped against the siding until it slid down, tired of pretending to fly. In the car, I sat a moment with my hands on the wheel, thumbs at 10 and 2 like the rules say, and took inventory. Shuttle, bagged. Helmet, bagged. Sunflowers, placed. Gift receipts, clipped. I had their timeline in my head like a call sheet. They thought I would sign because they had a pen. I backed out slow. The banner in the front window caught a draft and lifted Mia's name. The house receded in the mirror until it was just color and angles. At the corner, the Riverwalk flashed between trees. Ducks stitched ripples into the water, unbothered by human plans. Traffic was Sunday soft. I didn't turn the radio on. I let the silence do its work. It filled with Ruthie's voice the way a room fills with the scent of roses you trimmed an hour ago and can still smell on your hands. Home took 10 minutes that felt like a hinge. I pulled into my driveway and cut the engine. My house did not feel empty. It felt like it had been waiting for me to give it an order. Inside, I set the shuttle on the dining chair, the helmet on the table, the notepad in its place by the phone. I walked the length of the hall, past the framed map of the Riverwalk, past the coat tree Ruthie insisted we keep because one day we'll need it and we won't have it. In my office, the light was thinner. Dust hung in it like memory. On the far wall, Ruthie smiled from a summer frame, hat brim throwing half her face into shadow. I reached up and touched the corner of the glass. The frame gave the smallest hello under my fingertips. Behind it, the safe waited. Combination in my head like a prayer I never forget. I took a breath and laid my palm flat against the cool of the frame. Tomorrow, 10. Tonight, preparation. The frame gave under my palm, the way a well-hung door yields without complaint. I lifted Ruthie's summer smile off its hook, set it gently on the chair, and spun the dial. Left to the first number, right past it once,
Back again. My fingers remembered before my mind did. Steel clicked like a throat clearing. Inside, paper waited. Not the kind you sign in a hurry, but the kind that keeps a life from being rewritten by someone else's pen. Manila folders, edges softened by years. Binders with tabs I'd labeled on winter evenings when quiet was too loud. A ledger I'd started in the first months after Ruthie was gone, because writing things down kept the house from echoing. I carried the stack to the desk and let the safe rest open, its cool breath on my back. The office smelled faintly of dust, coffee, and the ghost of rose fertilizer Ruthie swore by. I clicked on the lamp. Light turned paper into landscape. I laid things out the way we did on scene. Closest to hand goes first. Bank statements, in order. Investment summaries. Deeds for 3 rentals. Corner lots I'd fixed myself. Sweat in the joists. The house deed, clean. No bank owns these walls. A list of accounts with balances I hadn't looked at as one number in years. I took a pen and started adding. Not round guesses, numbers with real spines. 2.3 million in liquid assets. 3 properties yielding steady rent. This house, bought and paid for. More than Stephen and Dana imagined. Not because I'd hidden it, because I'd never made a parade of it. Then I pulled the ledger, the one with the maroon cover and the spine Ruthie had mended with fabric tape patterned like tiny leaves. I opened to the index and ran a finger down the neat columns. Mortgage patch, Stephen and Dana, month and amount, transmission repair, private school tuition, temporary groceries. Each entry a piece of pride I'd chosen to swallow without choking anyone else on it. 247 payments over 3 years. $70,000, give or take the kindness of rounding. None of it begrudged at the time. All of it heavy when you line it up and see the slope your yes makes. I wrote the totals at the bottom of the page, underlining once. Pattern is proof when people sell you stories about exceptions. There was an envelope in the back of the safe I hadn't opened in a long time. Ruthie's handwriting on the front, slanted, practical, for when you need steel. I sat back, let the words land, and slid a finger under the flap. She'd written it in her favorite pen, the one that left a fine black line, no drama. 2 paragraphs, no sermon. She reminded me that generosity is holy until it becomes a leash. She said love makes you soft, and that's good, but a spine is love's best friend. She wrote Mia's name like a prayer, and Stephen's like a hope, and told me, plain as daylight, that some choices look like care and smell like control. By the time I folded the paper, the office felt smaller and steadier, like a ship that's found its keel again. I put the letter back in its envelope and set it on the desk, top right, where I wouldn't cover it with busy work. Then I began to build the thing they didn't expect me to have, a plan written in ink. I stacked the bank statements in a single pile, clipped. I added a cover sheet in my block letters. Support provided. 3 years, 247 disbursements, $70,000. Under that, a line under emergency or opportunity. I placed the deeds next with sticky flags for signatures that mattered and notes of market value, not because anyone had asked, but because the truth is easier to see when you give it a highlighter. I opened a fresh pad and wrote a sequence. Morning. Confirm procedures, not assumptions. Identify whether signatures means power of attorney or something heavier dressed in friendly clothes. Afternoon, if needed, lock assets into a structure that puts Mia first. Education, adulthood, guardrails to keep her from drowning in good luck. Witnesses, not friends with opinions, but professionals whose presence turns air into record. Priya's name went on the list with the word mobile beside it. Jeffrey's went there too, with his title, because titles make certain conversations shorter. I pulled Mia's softball photo from the fridge and tucked a copy into the folder that would become her future. She and I grinned at the camera. A duck blurred behind us like it was late for joy. It steadied my hand. I glanced at the clock. The house had shifted into that quiet hour when neighbors have put their dishes in the sink and the street stops pretending it's busy. Calling now would only wake people and teach them the wrong lesson about me. Impatient, rattled. I wasn't. I set an alarm for 7:45. I wrote another line on the pad. Speak calmly. Ask specific questions. Don't let their words pick the path. Then I underlined the last line I'd written to myself. You are not the victim here. I stood, turned back to the safe, and slid the door shut until the seal kissed the frame. The lamp made a warm circle on the desk where the plan sat, neat and legal and quiet. I put Ruthie's picture back on the wall and touched the corner again. Tomorrow, I said into the room that had held so much silence, we start. At 9 on the dot, I stood at the kitchen window with the phone warm in my hand, watching light find the Riverwalk map on my wall like it always does when a day means business. Coffee gone cool. Ruthie's Rose Journal opened to the line I underlined last night. Let discipline make you steady. I dialed. Jeffrey Owens, he answered, voice clear, banker-clipped and friendly. Jeffrey, it's Arthur Hale, I said. I'm reviewing my accounts and thinking about simplifying. I had a few questions about assistance frameworks, just broadly. Power of attorney, conservatorship, that sort of thing. Good to hear your voice, Arthur, he said. Happy to talk generally. What's on your mind? Definitions first, I said, uncapping my pen. Power of attorney gives someone authority if I grant it while I'm competent. Conservatorship requires a court to say I'm not, correct? Correct, he said. Power of attorney is voluntary and effective on the signer's capacity. Conservatorship is involuntary, court-ordered, and far more intrusive. And an emergency conservatorship, I asked? Expedited timelines? What signals a court will move fast? Typically, evidence of immediate risk, squandered assets, health hazards, fraud. Courts still want documentation. A physician's letter on competency helps. So do incident logs, dates, times, specific behaviors. Without that, it's rarely today or tomorrow, even on an emergency docket. I wrote, doctor letter, incident log, risk. Ink holds. He went on. For any bank to accept a conservator's authority, he said, we'll need certified court papers. For power of attorney, we verify the document, confirm identity, and, if it was signed recently, sometimes we like to know it was notarized with no red flags. No red flags, I repeated, meaning the notary saw the signer understood and wasn't pressured? Exactly, he said. A good notary will refuse to stamp if they suspect confusion or coercion. Mobile notaries are common for these situations, and they're trained to protect all parties. Timelines, I said. Let's say someone did their homework, came with a binder, used terms like expedited and emergency. How long from we're ready to we control Dad's accounts? He chuckled softly. People imagine it's a switch. It's a process. Even well-prepared families face weeks for conservatorship. Power of attorney can be same day if the signer is willing, capable, and the notary is satisfied. But banks still review. Understood, I said. Have you seen many families researching this lately? Confidentiality limits specifics, he said, professional line drawn. But I can say a couple earlier this week asked very detailed questions. Tuesday, if memory serves. They used the exact terms you're using. Emergency conservatorship, competency evaluations, expedited filing. Tuesday. The words set like a nail in wood, already scored. I kept my voice level. Diligent people. Very, he said. Thorough to a point that I reminded them courts don't trade in thorough alone. They trade in facts, and that banks respect orders, not intentions. Fair point, I said. If I wanted to make sure my portfolio is structured in a way that protects an 8-year-old's education before any adult ambitions, I let that hang as a hypothetical. Would you be available to review options? Of course, he said. Education trusts, custodial accounts, all straightforward to set up. We can walk through pros and cons, make sure beneficiary designations match your intent. I underlined beneficiary, then witnesses. And if I ever sign something substantial, I'd prefer to do so with a notary who isn't anyone's neighbor. Neutral eyes. That's wise, he said. I know a few mobile notaries with impeccable records.
Or I can be present if you'd like an extra set of experienced eyes. I appreciate that.
I'll circle back to set a time. We said the polite things that end a call between men who have both seen what happens when people rush paper. I set the phone down and looked at my notes. Court order versus consent. Doctor letter. Incident log. Notary refuses under pressure. Tuesday. Expedited, emergency, competency. I copied Tuesday in the margin and drew a line to the word papers. The room felt the way the bay does when a crew has pre-plans in hand. Quieter, even with the sirens still far off. The phone vibrated against the counter. Stephen's name bright on the screen. I let it buzz once, twice, and then picked up. Stephen's name still glowed on my screen when I picked up. "Dad, how are you feeling? Headache any better?" Concern, polished to a shine. "Comes and goes," I said. "I'm resting." "We can swing by," he said quickly, "just to check on you. Maybe go over a couple things to make life easier." "Come," I said. The word tasted like staging. "Door will be open." They arrived 20 minutes later, Dana's leather portfolio tucked like a newborn in the crook of her arm. She moved through my living room with curated care, straightening a coaster that didn't need straightening, setting down bottled water with the label facing outward. Stephen hovered, hands in pockets, then out, then in again. "You look pale," Dana said softly, eyes cataloging instead of caring. "We brought something that will help." She unzipped the portfolio. The smell of new paper and toner, tabbed pages in plastic sleeves, yellow flags marking signature lines, blue pen with a rubber grip, a checklist on top. Durable power of attorney, finances, durable power of attorney, healthcare, HIPAA release, living will template. Their homework had neat margins. "Arthur," she said, laying the first packet on my coffee table. "This is standard. It lets Stephen help with bills, banking, that sort of thing. Makes everything easier if you're confused or tired." "Just signatures," Stephen added, voice too bright, "for your own good." For your own good. The phrase rang like a smoke alarm with a dying battery, soft enough to ignore if you wanted to, irritating if you didn't. I sat forward slowly, letting my hand tremble on my knee. "I don't read as quickly as I used to," I said. "Headaches make the words slide." I let my eyes go out of focus for half a breath, just long enough to be plausible. "Walk me through it." Dana was ready. "Durable means it stays effective if you become incapacitated. Stephen would be your agent." Her nail tapped where my name was printed neatly above the word principal. Here, here, and here. Tap, tap, tap. She turned a page. "This one allows us to access medical information so we can advocate for you." Advocate, another careful word. I nodded like I'd heard it in church. Stephen leaned forward. "Dad, you've always taken care of us. Let us take care of you. This way we can pay your bills on time, talk to doctors, make sure you're safe." "Safe," I repeated, tasting the paper again. I lifted the top form. The language was all there. Broad powers, immediate effectiveness, revocation terms. A rope hidden in lace. I set it back down and rubbed my temple. "I want to do this right," I said, "but my head isn't right today." Dana's smile tightened one click. "That's exactly why we should get it done now, before things get more confusing." Stephen flinched at the edge in her tone. "If you're not up to it," he said quickly, "we could just sign the first one, the rest tomorrow." I let silence sit between us for 3 long breaths. Then I nodded like an old man choosing a softer chair. "Tomorrow," I said, 10 a.m. I'll have a notary present. Neutral eyes. Makes it proper." Dana's gaze flicked, calculating, then smoothing. "Of course," she said. "We thought of that too." She hadn't. "We can bring someone." "I've already made some calls," I lied politely.
"I'll arrange it." Stephen tried a different angle. "Dad, do you trust me?" He asked it like a test he'd deserved to pass because he'd asked. "I do," I said, and let the rest hang unsaid. I don't trust this. Leave the papers. I'll read them tonight when the headache's quiet. I'll sign tomorrow when my head is clear and a notary can see it's clear. Dana hesitated a beat too long, then slid the stack toward me. We flagged where you need to sign to make it easy. Kind, I said. I like easy when it's right. She opened her mouth to press again. Stephen touched her wrist. He'd seen something in my face, steel under linen. Tomorrow, he repeated. I stood, slowly, the way old bones make a performance of gravity. I'll walk you out. At the door, Dana turned back. Arthur, if you feel dizzy or forgetful tonight, call us. We'll come right back. I'm not alone, I said, and let the sentence breathe. She didn't ask who was here. She assumed I meant the phone, or God, or habit. None of those were wrong. They stepped off my porch and into the mild afternoon, like actors leaving a stage after missing their cue. I watched their car reverse, then idle, two silhouettes bent together in a low conversation I didn't need to hear. Back inside, I set the portfolio on the desk, slid the forms from their sleeves, and laid them out under the lamp. Yellow flags blinked up at me like caution lights at a blind curve. I uncapped my pen and didn't sign. I wrote in the margin instead, tomorrow, 10, notary present, witness eyes. Then I clipped a sticky note to the top page with one more line, written in block letters I used at fire scenes. Do not sign under pressure. My phone lit with a text from Stephen. Thanks, Dad. This will make everything easier. Heart emoji, blue. I powered the screen dark and looked at the clock. If they want it easy, they'd get proper. It's different. I opened the door before the second chime finished. Miss Shaw, Mr. Owens, thank you for coming. Calm.
Facts, not feelings. I led them to the office and gestured to the chairs I'd set. Priya with her journal, Jeffrey with a clear view of the desk. A minute later, tires whispered at the curb. Stephen and Dana came in with their leather portfolio and careful voices. Please, everyone sit, I said. Before we sign anything, we're going to tell the truth. Dana set the portfolio down, smile fixed. Stephen watched me the way people watch a fuse. Jeffrey, I said, turning to him, would you define emergency conservatorship for us? Plain terms. Jeffrey folded his hands. An emergency conservatorship is a court-ordered arrangement the judge grants when there's immediate risk, assets being squandered, health or safety in danger. It requires documentation, physician opinions, incident logs with dates and specifics. Even expedited, it takes time, and banks act only on certified orders. I nodded. Thank you. Facts on the table. Miss Shaw, I said, please state what you need from any signer. Priya's voice was steady. I verify identity, willingness, and understanding. If I observe confusion or coercion, I do not notarize. I record details in my journal. My duty is to the integrity of the signing. Good, I said. That's why you're here. I slid the maroon ledger forward and opened to the index. Now, facts. Over the last 3 years, I've provided 247 payments to Stephen and Dana, approximately $70,000. Mortgage patches, a transmission, private school tuition, temporary groceries that became a monthly expectation. I placed the summary sheet on the desk. This is a pattern, not an accusation. Patterns tell you where a story wants to go. Stephen's throat worked. Dad, Stephen, we are speaking in facts, I said softly. On Tuesday, you visited Riverbank Community Credit Union and asked detailed questions about expedited conservatorship and competency evaluations. I glanced at Jeffrey. He didn't look away. Today, you brought power of attorney packets with tabs ready for signatures. You planned to make things easier. Dana straightened. We were trying to help. It's standard, just signatures. Priya uncapped her pen. For the record, she said, I will not proceed if the signer is being pressured. No one is being pressured, Dana said quickly. I am not signing your papers, I said, and let the words sit. I am signing mine. I turned the second stack. The trust draft lay on top with Mia's name where it belonged.
This is an educational trust for Mia, I said. Funds exist to widen a child's world, not reward adult shortcuts. Beneficiary, Mia Hale. Purpose, education and training. Age of control, 21. Distributions for tuition, books, reasonable housing, or apprenticeship. No distributions to parents. Emergency clause for Mia's medical needs only. Jeffrey leaned in, reading. Sound structure, he murmured. Miss Shaw, I said, meeting Priya's eyes, I understand this document and am signing freely. She studied my face for a beat that felt like a held breath, then nodded. Please present your ID. I did. She checked the name against the document, the date, the room. State your full name and that you are signing willingly. Arthur Hale. I am signing willingly. I took my own pen, ink that wasn't theirs, and wrote my name where the line waited. Priya's seal clicked, a small official sound that carried. Stephen's shoulders sagged an inch. Dana's smile lost its scaffolding. Now, I said, turning back to them, conditions for any reconsideration of my estate in the future. You will work. Jobs that support your household without my wallet as a habit. You will pursue counseling. Financial first, family if a counselor recommends it. And you will show up for your child, not in photographs, in bleachers, at dinners, in the quiet minutes when she asks questions you don't want to answer. I held Stephen's eyes. 12 months. Measurable. If you meet those, we talk. Until then, the help stops. Dad, Stephen said, voice thready, please. Boundaries, I said. They keep good things from burning down. Dana's fingers tightened on the portfolio. You can't just cut us off. I can, I said, and I am. There will be no access to my accounts, no signatures today that hand you my life. If you pursue legal shortcuts, I will respond with counsel and facts. Our contact will be about Mia, not money. Silence settled, that particular kind that follows a call where the chief says the plan out loud and the crew believes him. Priya finished her entries in the journal. Jeffrey capped his pen and leaned back, eyes on the trust as if savoring a thing done right. I stacked the trust copy for my attorney, slid the original into a folder marked with Mia's name, and closed the ledger. Do you understand? I asked, not unkindly. Stephen opened his mouth, closed it, and looked at Dana. She stared at the seal on the page like it had undone a spell. The house held its breath. No one spoke. The room held the shape of my name on Priya's seal. Stephen tried first. Dad, you're misunderstanding. We only... Facts, I said, not unkind. Not feelings. Dana straightened a stack as if neat corners could fix content. This is normal estate planning. Everyone does it. It's standard. We did research because we care. Jeffrey folded his hands. For the record, he said evenly, banks act on certified court orders for conservatorships. For power of attorney, we look for clear consent and competent understanding. If a notary sees pressure, we won't honor the document. Dana's eyes flicked to Priya. There is no pressure. Priya uncapped her pen and set her journal square. My role is to observe, question, and decline if needed. I will need to ask the signer, Mr. Hale, privately if he understands and wants to proceed with any document you brought. If the answer isn't a confident yes, I do not notarize. I lifted the maroon ledger, opened to a random middle page, and turned it so they could see. May 3rd, temporary groceries, $200. May 21st, school fundraiser, $150. June 5th, urgent car, $800. The amounts rise, so do the intervals. I tapped the totals at the bottom. 247 payments, $70,000, 3 years. Stephen's face collapsed a shade. Dana's jaw found the angle people use when they're deciding which wall to lean on. This isn't a grievance, I said. It's a pattern. Patterns predict behavior. Tuesday, you went to Riverbank Community Credit Union and asked about fast tracks, emergency conservatorship, competency letters, how long until we control Dad's accounts. I glanced at Jeffrey. Banks hear families ask those questions. They answer, in general. They do not hand you a switch. Jeffrey nodded once. Even in urgent cases, courts require evidence, doctor opinions, dates, specific incidents, weeks, not hours. And misrepresenting facts to a court is serious. Very. Dana's smile didn't come back. We were only making sure he's safe. Safe looks like witnesses, I said, and like me saying this plainly. I will not sign your documents. Not today, not later. Priya lifted her eyes to me. Mr. Hale, for completeness, do you understand the power of attorney packets presented by your family, and do you wish to sign them today? I understand them, I said, and I do not wish to sign. She turned to Stephen and Dana. Based on the signer's statement and my observations, I decline to notarize your documents today. She wrote in her journal, each stroke a calm refusal. I will, however, notarize Mr. Hale's trust as he has demonstrated understanding and willingness. Stephen sagged into the chair as if someone had exhaled him. Dad, I didn't want it like this. He pushed a hand through his hair. I'm underwater.
Work the debt, Dana said. He stopped, hearing himself hand out blame in pieces. Dana found steel the way some people find volume. You can't just pull the rug out. We planned around your help. We have a mortgage, tuition, groceries. Her voice sharpened. If you won't sign, we can petition the court. Emergency. They'll see you left a party early. You're confused. You forget things. Careful, I said quietly. You're building a case against a man who invited two professionals into his home to walk you through the difference between consent and control. I placed today's receipts under the clip, time-stamped, flat. This morning, I purchased gifts for Mia. I asked technical questions. I recorded times. Priya met me at 9:45. Jeffrey came at 10. My ledger is in order. My speech is clear. Your notary is declining. Jeffrey added, almost gentle, and a physician would need to examine Mr. Hale and issue an opinion. Courts want logs, not feelings. If your filings exaggerate or fabricate, a judge will notice. So will opposing counsel. Priya capped her stamp and met Dana's eyes. My journal will read that Mr. Hale understood and refused your documents, and that he executed his own freely. That record exists. Stephen's shoulders shook once, like a hiccup he couldn't swallow. I'm sorry, he said, and for the first time it sounded like a sentence he meant. I knew this felt wrong. I said it. He looked at Mia's photo peeking from beneath the trust draft and shut his eyes. Dana's fingers tightened on the portfolio until the leather creaked. We'll see you in court, she said, but the line didn't fit the room. It fell thin. Maybe, I said, if you choose escalation over repair. I turned to Stephen. I laid out conditions. Work, counseling, show up for your daughter. 12 months, measurable. You can spend that year trying to take what isn't yours, or you can spend it becoming the father she needs. He nodded, small, like the beginning of a bow.
Priya, I said, not looking away from them, please prepare your journal for the trust acknowledgement. She readied the page. The room clicked into its last arrangement. Papers where they belonged, titles in their lanes, witnesses assigned to truth. Mr. Owens, I said, would you please witness as an experienced eye? With respect, he said, and reached for his pen. I turned the trust packet to the funding addendum and uncapped my own pen. The line waited. I slid the funding addendum into place and squared the edges with my palm. Miss Shaw, I said, ID again? She took it, compared the name and address, looked at me the way a good notary looks, into the person, not the paper. State your name and intent, she said. Arthur Hale. I'm signing this educational trust for my granddaughter, freely, with understanding. My voice didn't wobble. The room heard that. I took my own pen, ink that wasn't theirs. I signed where the line waited, then initialed the pages that asked for it, each mark a small door closing. Priya's seal pressed down, the embossing bite carrying more weight than any speech. She logged the time, the title, the IDs, quiet scratches that built a record no one could wish away.
Jeffrey leaned forward. "I'll witness," he said, adding his signature where the page invited a competent eye. He didn't fill the room, he steadied it. I turned the packet so Stephen and Dana could read what I had just made true. "Terms," I said, "simple. Beneficiary, Mia Hale. Purpose, education and training. College, trade, veterinary school if she keeps loving animals. Age of control, 21. Permitted distributions, tuition, fees, books, reasonable housing during study, or apprenticeship tools. No distributions to parents. Medical emergency clause applies to Mia only." Dana's mouth parted, closed. Stephen stared at Mia's name like he'd forgotten how to pronounce it. "Funding," I continued. "Initial transfer begins this week. Successor trustee will be independent, Mr. Owens will provide a short list. Your signatures are not required for any of this." I set the trust's copy from my attorney into a separate folder and clipped it. Then I turned back to them and let the other door close. "Effective immediately," I said, "my financial support ends. Mortgage patches, car repairs, tuition checks, temporary groceries, done. If you receive a bill, you will pay it, or you will call the provider and make a plan. My accounts are not your plan." Stephen swallowed. "Dad, how are we supposed to?" "Like millions of adults do," I said, "with work and restraint." "Conditions," I said, holding up a finger for each. 1. Employment that supports your household without me, both of you, documented income. 2. Counseling, financial first and family if the counselor recommends it. Show me the schedule, not the feelings. 3. Show up for your daughter, not as a photo op. In bleachers, at homework, at the table. 12 months, measurable. If you meet these, we can discuss the future like people who want one. Dana found her voice, thin and sharp. "So we jump through hoops for your approval?" "You rebuild trust," I said, "or you don't. But you don't borrow it against Mia." I slid their POA packets back across the table, the yellow tabs winking like hazards. "These go home with you. They will not be signed. If you shop for a notary willing to ignore capacity or pressure, understand that Miss Shaw's journal exists, this meeting happened, and Mr. Owens knows the questions you asked on Tuesday." Priya didn't look up from her entries. "My notes are contemporaneous," she said. "If subpoenaed, they will say exactly what happened here." Jeffrey capped his pen. "And any bank will require proper orders. Fabrications tend to collapse in front of judges." Silence didn't rush in. It settled, heavy and even. I could hear the refrigerator cycle, a car door down the block, my own breath. I turned the page on the trust to the last tab and initialed it. Priya sealed. The click of plastic on paper sounded like a lock finding home. "Communication," I said. "From today, contact me about Mia, schedules, school, health. Not about money. If you text about cash, you won't get a reply. If you threaten court, my attorney will answer. If you meet the conditions, I will notice." Stephen's eyes shone in a way that made him look like the boy with cake on his face from the photo in my hall. "I'm sorry," he said, and this time there wasn't a hedge in it. Dana's hand tightened on the portfolio until the leather protested. She didn't speak. Sometimes silence is the only honest sentence left. I closed the folder with Mia's name and slid it into the drawer I'd cleared for it. "We're finished for today," I said. "Take your papers, take a breath, decide who you want to be for the next 12 months. No one moved at first. Then Priya flipped her journal shut with a soft thud, and Jeffrey stood, offering a brief, professional nod that felt like a benediction on the facts. The room held still, waiting to see who would stand next. Priya closed her journal with a soft thud. Jeffrey stood, offered a brief nod, and left his card by the pitcher. "You have my number," he said. "If counsel is needed, I can point you to the right doors." The front door clicked once, polite. The house breathed. Stephen and Dana stayed seated like students who hadn't heard the bell. "This isn't revenge," I said. "It's a boundary." Stephen nodded, small. "I get it." Dana didn't. "We can't make a mortgage on apologies," she said. "This is
Impossible. Impossible is not a budget, I said. Work is. Restraint is. Planning is. I kept my voice even. You chose a path that tried to trade my capacity for your comfort. That path is closed. She looked at the yellow tabs as if they might argue back. We were trying to help. Help asks. Control assumes, I said. From today, I'll respond to texts about Mia's schedule, school, and health. I won't respond to requests for money. If you file anything in court, my attorney will respond, not me. Stephen swallowed. What about holidays? Birthdays? Show up. On time, sober, kind. If you need to choose between a party and a payment plan, choose the plan. Mia doesn't need theme cakes. She needs parents who keep promises. Dana lifted her chin. You're punishing us for being poor. I grew up with less than you can imagine, I said. This isn't punishment. It's responsibility. I let the next line land. And it's protection. For an 8-year-old who asked me last week if families can love each other and still be wrong. The room quieted around that. I slid 2 sheets across the table. These are your conditions in writing, I said. Employment, counseling, presence with Mia. 12 months. You don't have to agree out loud. You'll either meet them or you won't. I'll know. Stephen glanced at the bullet points and nodded again. Dana didn't touch the page. I stood. We're finished. They rose slowly, the way people do when the floor they thought they knew has changed under their feet. At the door, Stephen hesitated. Dad, he said, voice raw, I'm sorry. Not a performance. A sentence with weight. I hope you do the work, I said, for her. I didn't look at Dana when I said it. I didn't need to. The storm door sighed, then closed. Tires whispered away. Silence settled, even and clean. I went back to the office and turned process into airtightness. I scanned the executed trust and Priya's acknowledgement, named the files with the date and time, and emailed them to my attorney with a subject line that read simply, Executed, Mia Hale Educational Trust. Please file and confirm. I attached a photo of Priya's journal line with names masked, just enough to mark the moment. Then I opened a new message to Stephen and Dana. Subject, communication. Body, from today, please text only about Mia's schedule, school, health. No financial requests will be answered. If you pursue legal action, my attorney will respond. Boundaries protect families. Dad. I read it twice for temperature, then sent. The phone lit almost immediately. Stephen calling, then again, then a text. Can we talk? Please. I set the phone face down. It buzzed against the wood, a restless animal. Dana's name flashed, then a paragraph ballooned and collapsed into 3 dots, then nothing. The phone buzzed again. I didn't move. I opened the drawer and slid the folder with Mia's name into the space I'd cleared. It fit like it belonged there. Above the desk, Ruthie's summer hat leaned into the lamp's circle, like it knew we'd earned this light. I poured a glass of water. It looked like clarity. I drank half and set it down on the coaster Dana had straightened an hour ago. The mark from her thumbprint was still faint on the glass rim. Being careful with surfaces is not the same as being careful with people. Outside, a mower droned, then stuttered, then smoothed out. The neighborhood returned to its Sunday noises. I took the trash out because Trash Day doesn't care about proclamations. On the way back in, I stopped by the rose bed. Small leaves were pushing out on the canes Ruthie had cut back to nothing in February. She'd always trusted the rude math of pruning. Cut and then grow right. Back at the desk, the phone buzzed again. I flipped it over long enough to read, Stephen, we'll figure it out. I'm sorry. Then another from Dana. This is cruel. You'll regret it. I let both sit. I wasn't collecting replies. I was collecting proof I could ignore. Time moved. Light shifted on the Riverwalk map. The house kept its shape. At 3:15, brakes sighed on the street, the sound a school bus makes when it kneels. Children's voices bubbled, then thinned. A small pair of footsteps found my walk, quick, certain. The doorbell rang, bright as a new coin on a counter. I opened the door to a backpack and a crown folded flat in a small hand. Mia stood on the step,
sneakers square on the welcome mat like she'd practiced being brave all the way from the curb. "Mom said you wanted to see me," she said. "I did," I said. "Come in, superstar." She slipped past me, set the backpack by the couch, and looked around like the house might have changed since yesterday. It had, in the ways you feel rather than see. "Hot chocolate?" I asked. Her yes was immediate. I made it the way Ruthie taught me. Milk warmed slow, cocoa whisked until there were no dry islands left, a dash of vanilla like a secret. We sat at the table with our mugs, steam touching our faces in soft, patient ribbons. "Is this about what I told you?" she asked, eyes on the swirl. "Partly," I said. "Mostly, it's about us." I let the quiet sit long enough to be a cushion. Grown-up things happened today. They are being handled by grown-ups. You did the brave thing, and now you get to be 8. She nodded, small. "Are you mad at Mom and Dad?" "I'm disappointed," I said. "That's heavier than mad. But I set rules that help people grow. Rules are how love stays." Her shoulders let go a little. I reached to the chair beside me and slid a folder onto the table. No numbers on the cover, just her name in my neat block letters. M.I. "What's that?" she asked, fingertip on the M. "A promise on paper," I said. "For school, for learning, whatever you decide. If it has books or tools or the kind of boots people wear in a barn, this helps." Her head tipped. "Even veterinary school? That's really expensive," she said, repeating something she must have overheard once. "Especially veterinary school," I said, and meant it. "You've got time to change your mind 30 times. This is here for every version of you that loves to learn." She smiled without looking up, the way people do when they're not sure their face is allowed to be happy yet. "Can we look at pictures?" "We can," I said. I opened my laptop, typed in 2 words, and the world offered campuses and barns, classrooms with skeleton dogs and lab coats sized for people who still chew pencil caps. We didn't rank. We wandered. The map bloomed. I bookmarked nothing and everything. My phone buzzed. Miss Harper's name on the screen. "Hey, Mr. Hale, Mia mentioned animals last week. Can I send some STEM Club links? She's a natural." I showed the message to Mia. Her grin turned real. "Can we go to the Riverwalk later?" she asked. "The ducks probably think I forgot them." "Ducks don't keep score," I said, "but yes." We finished the cocoa. She scraped the last chocolate from the rim with her tongue, just as Ruthie used to. No apology in it. I tucked the folder back into the drawer I'd cleared for it, letting her see where it went. Things that matter should have a place. "Will you still love me if Mom and Dad get mad again?" she asked, fast, as if the words were slippery. "Nothing your parents feel changes what I feel," I said. "That's not a switch they can flip." I held out my hand, little finger curled. She looped hers through mine. "This is ours," I said. "Same rules as always. I hear you. I've got you." We walked to the Riverwalk while the day was still warm on the edges. The ducks did what they always do, stitching the DuPage into commas that made the water look like it was catching its breath. Mia flicked crumbs from a small paper cone and told me about a class art project and a girl who insists purple is a mood, not a color. I listened. That was the point. On the way back, we cut by the rosebed. New leaves were pushing out of the canes Ruthie had cut to nothing in February. Mia touched a thorn with the tip of her finger, cautious and curious in equal measure. "Do they hurt you?" she asked. "They can," I said. "But if you learn how to hold them, you get the blooms without the blood." She nodded like it was math. We stood there a minute longer than necessary, letting the shape of the day settle. Inside, I poured her a glass of water. No glitter, no garnish, and packed the hot chocolate mugs into the sink to wait their turn. She put the crown back on her head and didn't try to fix the fold. "Grandpa," she said at the door, "thanks for everything, the kind that doesn't fit in a bag." "You're welcome," I said. "Go be 8." She stepped off the porch and ran down the walk with the lightness of someone who has been told the future is not a cliff but a path. The bus hissed a block away. A dog barked twice and then decided it was enough. I closed the door and leaned my palm against the wood like a blessing.
Boundaries had been drawn. A promise had been made and funded. A child had been told the truth about love. It holds, and it holds you up. If this story reached your heart, share what it stirred in you. Leave a comment with your thoughts, or a lesson you've carried through hard family seasons. And if you want more stories where justice finds its way home, subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.